Hi guys, this is Jafari Sali. Today, I'm going to share with you a story that is also considered one of the greatest stories that ever been written. It is also one of my favorite stories. The story is titled as Beowulf. Some of you have heard the story in the movies, in books, or maybe in the very first version of the story. The reason why I chose these stories first because it is an interesting one. From the beginning to the end, it really captures the attention of the crowd. Second, it is thrilling. Why? Because there are a lot of suspenseful scenes that happen throughout the story. Lastly, the story is about power. The main character, which is called Beowulf, that is also considered as a great warrior who took down the antagonist, which is the Grendel. Now, let's talk about the author. Up to this day, the person who wrote the story about the Beowulf is still unknown. So the scholars refer this person as the Beowulf poet. There are clues about the Christian ideology in the character of Beowulf, as many scholars believe that the poet behind the story is a Christian monk living in the Anglo-Saxon era of England. But the very first recorded owner of the Beowulf is Lawrence Nowell. He is a pioneer of the study of Old English. He died on the year of 1570. The script was published during the year of 1563. Now, without further ado, let's continue to the book review of Beowulf. It started in the 8th year of Scandinavia, where King Hrothgar's stunning meads corridor, Heorot, has been desolated for a very long time, on a span of 12 years, and visited every night from a malicious beast, Grendel, who takes away Hrothgar's heroes and eats them up. Surprisingly, a young Beowulf, a sovereign Geat of the southern Sweden, shows up with a little band of retainers and offers to purge Heorot of its beasts. Hrothgar is astounded at the mostly secret legends challenging, yet invites him. And, after a night of eating various meals of feasting, much graciousness, and some discourtesy, the Lord leaves and rests, leaving Beowulf in control. During the night, Grendel comes from the field, tears open the wide entryways and eats up one of the dozen Geats. At some point, Grendel wrestles with Beowulf. He amazingly holds the hand of Grendel, which torques himself free, removing his arm, and leaves mortally injured. The following day, Beowulf searches for Grendel out in his cavern at the lower part of the cave, and fought with him to the very last of his breath. Beowulf killed the Grendel. For reassurance, he cuts the head from Grendel's carcass and went back to the town of Heorot to let the people know that the Grendel is dead. The Danes celebrated again. Hrothgar makes a goodbye discourse about the personality of the genuine saint, as Beowulf, enhanced with distinction and august blessings, gets back to the king of Higla for the gifts.
The second part passes rapidly over King Hygelac's subsequent death in a battle of historical record. The death of his son and Beowulf's succession to the kingship and his peaceful rule of 50 years. But now, a fire-breathing dragon ravaged his land, and the doughty but aging Beowulf engaged it. The fight is long and terrible, and a painful contrast to the battles of his youth. Painful too, of course. Painful for him is the desertion of his retainers except for his young man's kinsman, Wiglaf, which is Wiglaf. Beowulf kills the dragon but is mortally wounded. The poem ends with his funeral rites and a lament. Beowulf belongs metrically, statistically, and thematically to a heroic tradition grounded in German religion and mythology. It is also part of the broader tradition of heroic poetry. Many incidents such as Beowulf tearing off the monster's arm and his descent into the mere are familiar motifs from folklore. The ethical values are manifested the Germanic code of loyalty to the chief and tribe and vengeance to the enemies. Yet the poem is so infused with a Christian spirit that it lacks the grim fatality of many of the Eddaicles or the sagas of Icelandic literature. Beowulf himself seems more altruistically than the other Germanic heroes or the Greek heroes of the Iliad. It is significant that his three battles are not against them, which would entail the retaliation of the blood feud, but against evil monsters, enemies of the whole community and of civilization itself. Many critics have seen the poem as an Christian allegory, with Beowulf the champion of goodness and light against the force of evil and darkness. His sacrificial death is not seen as a tragic but the pitting of an good, some would say, too good, hero's life. That is not to say that Beowulf is an optimistic poem, but it suggests that its total effect is more like a long lyrical elegy that an epic. Even the earlier, happier section in Denmark is filled with ominous allusions that were well understood by contemporary audience. Thus, after Grendel's death, King Hrothgar speaks sanguinely of the future, which the audience knows will end with the destruction of his line and the burning of Heorot. In the second part of the movement is slow and funereal. Scenes from Beowulf's suit are replayed in a minor key such as counterpoint to his last battle, and the mood becomes increasingly somber as the weird fate that comes to all men close into him. So, Beowulf has been often translated into modern English, renderings by Simon Haney in 1999, Tolkien, completed in 1926, published in 2014, became the bestsellers. It has also been the source for detailing in text John Gardner's Grendel 1971, for example, which takes the point of view of the monsters and as the movies. So for compare contrast for Beowulf's book, in this movie and poem, there were various differences and similarities that stood out to me. Generally, a book or poems gets made into a movie, there are plenty of differences and similarities. That is why I certainly not surprised in that Beowulf Film Production Company was no true to the original composition. I like the poem a lot than film production company because the movie seemed artificial and not believable in comparison to the poem. A single difference involving that poem as well as the movie was that the poem explained that the actual story of Beowulf and his journey is much more detailed. So for Beowulf's conclusion, Beowulf's bravery is explicitly displayed throughout the poem. A final example of heroic qualities displayed by Beowulf and his own human power. The mental and physical strength that's required of a hero. Now Dane, before Beowulf's arrival, was able to defeat the monsters, much less Grendel himself. So throughout the poem, Beowulf's action display confidence, anger, sadness, pride, bravery, and love for those he swore to protect. In his quest, he gains wisdom and a selflessness to protect the people even at his own peril. Beowulf is an inspirational poem that helps the reader understand that the pride is good when applied properly and tempered with humility. But it but that isn't what makes them better. The poem inspires consideration for others and a selfless regard to defend the innocent and helpless and the consequence of ignoring the call.
At the end of the poem, we have concluded that Beowulf had a great clash with the dragon. He had thought that this will be his last battle. He killed the fierce dragon, yet left mortally wounded. Beowulf died afterwards. In the final context of the poem states that its hero was a great man, yet his greatness had added up to little more than suffering to his people. The state means that Beowulf's kinsmen are left with no king to lead them. It would cause an uproar and future war between Beowulf's enemies, knowing that the mighty king, warrior, had died. Nevertheless, Beowulf's accomplishments and great adventures throughout the story is represented as heroic. In spite of tragedy the protagonist had met, he will be remembered as the brave warrior king who slayed the Grendel and the dragon.